Joe Prischak has been active and hard at work since his earliest days in Albion.
I was born and raised on a farm, and you never worked any harder than on a farm, and that was the days before tractors, and we used to farm with horses, and we'd get up in the morning 5 o'clock and go milk cows and do all the chores, feed them and clean them, and we used to have to walk to school maybe 3 miles, 4 miles, and those were the days that you learned what work was. And one thing I learned on the farm, I didn't want to be a farmer. So when I was 18, I took off and came to the big city.
It was the 1940s, and Erie, Pennsylvania was a pioneering city in the plastics industry, home to the second injection molding company in the country, Erie Resistor.
Well, I was working at Erie Resistor in the tool room, and that was full-time, 45 hours a week, and then I worked part-time, 50 hours a week at P&S Tool.
And they wouldn't give him a nickel raise. And he was 24 years old at the time and working circles around a lot of people. And because he was only 24 and didn't put in his quote years, they turned him down.
I said, well, you know what, I quit, and I left there, and I thought, well, I'm going to start my own tool shop, and that was back in 1956, and that's when I started Triangle Tool. That was the beginning.
He then started Plastic here in Erie, as well as companies in the UK, Brazil, and Venezuela. Opportunities were everywhere for Joe Prischak, but training his sons for the family dynasty was not as easy.
It was like 1988-89, and I was sending 2 of my sons out of town to go into a plastics engineering program, one in Big Rapids, Michigan, Fair State, the other one to Pittsburgh, Kansas. I got to thinking, why do I have to send my sons out of town?
It was kind of disappointing to him that he had to send my brother out of town for that. From the 40s and the 50s on up, Erie really was a hotbed, if you will. It was a center of excellence, in the developing plastics industry.
Coincidentally, about that time, Dr. Lilly came and saw me, and we sat down and we talked about the need for a plastics program in Erie.
This meeting was the beginning of what would become one of the most innovative and successful plastics programs in the nation.
We consider Joe Prischak to be the father of the plastics engineering program here at Penn State Behrend.
It was really his expertise, his knowledge built up over many, many years of working in the industry. He gave us advice. He helped us determine what the curriculum would look like.
In developing a curriculum, you need to know what skill sets employees will need. So they needed to identify that given the growth of a relatively, not new industry, but a relatively newer industry in the region. Once we developed the curriculum and started recruiting students, we needed to develop engineering facilities. Behrend was very small in the early 1980s.
Joe was a key contributor. He contributed $1 million.
It's a very hands-on, very applied course, and they go on to all different facets of the industry.
Penn State is now #1 in the plastics engineering, and they put out some real good engineers.
And it's an internationally recognized school of engineering that's ranked by U.S. News & World Report among the top engineering schools in the nation.
His contribution to the program didn't end there.
Felt like doing something more for the kids coming up.
Joe came back to me and said, Margie, said, I'd like to do 2 scholarships.
That's a $2 million scholarship program. I put up $1 million, Penn State put up $1 million.
Not only that, they're active in meeting with the students. They come to the scholarship dinner each year, they sit down, they talk to the students, they hear their story. I think they get great personal satisfaction out of that.
Anybody I can help educate, I love it. I also started a plastics program identical to what we have at Penn State Behrend at the University of Bratislava in Bratislava, Slovak Republic.
He's actually worked with a 3rd university, at Richmond Community College in North Carolina.
By 2002, Joe Prischak was in his 70s, well beyond the typical retirement age. But he was not, by any means, typical. He had his own idea of what retirement meant.
Well, retirement doesn't mean that you got to lay down and die. I mean, retirement means you're going to do something else. Just before July 1st of 2002, I figured, well, it's time for them to start taking over, so I called them all into the conference room here.
And he called my brothers and I have 4 brothers, and senior managers into the conference room and kind of presented us all with soccer balls.
And on the soccer balls, I had written, Daniel, the ball is in your court now. Douglas, the ball is in your court. And then Donald, the ball is in your court.
And in the case of mine, it said, Dennis, the ball's in your court. Love, Dad. And yeah, it was pretty cool, actually.
So what does a guy do who has already started companies and helped implement education programs across the globe?
Since he retired 13 years ago, he started probably 6 or 8 different companies. A promotional company, a magazine publishing company, a racetrack.
What I try to do is look at it as an opportunity. There was no magazine on mold making, so I started a magazine called Mold Making Technology.
Just in the last several years, he's designed and created a whole new product line for HVAC systems, something that, is completely new to the industry and is just starting to take off.
While Joe Prischak has been involved in nearly every aspect of plastics, some might say his most significant venture is completely unrelated to the industry.
Since I retired in 2002, of course, I made many trips to Africa, and on my last trip to Africa, which was in '06, I saw all these people, and especially the kids, little kids 2, 3 years old, standing there with flies all over them, bloated stomachs. And I'll tell you one thing, you stand there long enough, you see them fall over and die.
The water that they have to drink it's waterborne, it's diseased. It has feces in it, the animals drink out of it, they get most of it from creek beds, etc. In Africa, they say if you're going to have 2 children, you have 5, because the likelihood is that you will lose 3 of them due to waterborne disease.
I got back from Africa and I said, Joe, you got to do something to help them. And that's when I started Africa 6000.
Yes, the 6,000 in our name, Africa 6,000 International, stands for the number of children who were dying daily from waterborne disease when we started this project.
And it really moved him. So literally, weeks after he came back, he was determined to raise money for water wells because it's just a lack of clean water.
I just decided I'm going to start a charity, and then I hooked up with World Serve and Magitech, and that is kind of our modus operandi, where we got all the facilities we need to do the whole project. Since then, we've drilled over 80-some wells, I guess.
And they try to keep the water pumping through, the simplest mechanisms possible. There's some things with solar power, because getting spare parts over in Africa is not simple. So you try to, drill something that'll last.
Our wells we drill, they'll continue on long after I'm gone. And some of those wells will be there for 50 years. So if you totaled up how many lives they saved, it's in the mega millions they're going to save.
Very forlorn, desperate folks, many of them women and children coming out of a war-torn area and a severe drought area. All of our work has been done in Kenya and Tanzania, 4 of them in the Somali refugee camp areas. That was a huge undertaking. Very difficult. We thought would be done in about 6 or 9 months, and it took us almost 2 years. And Joe was just like, no, keep going, because that's what he does.
There's no greater privilege that you can have than to save a life.
It comes to someone who touches his heart, someone who's at the poverty level, he'll go above and beyond. He's such a humble person. When it comes to that type of thing, normally you'll never know that he had a hand in it.
It's not me, it's them. They're the ones that are doing it. I'm just guiding them. You surround yourself with good people, and that's what I've done all my life.
Perhaps that's one of his secrets to doing so much in his later years. The other secrets?
Well, have a good wife. That helps. Without my wife, I would be nowhere today, believe me. Actually, I credit her with a lot of what my success is.
I think the values that my parents, instilled in us at a young age, hard work, as well, and more importantly, the faith and the values in the Catholic Church and in God. I think it's a credit to my parents for that too, big time.
Congratulations, Joe. A well-deserved award. Enjoy it.
Joe, on behalf of John Lilly, Jack Burke, Don Burks, and the thousands of Penn State alumni who majored in plastics engineering here at Penn State, as well as those in engineering and other majors, thank you for your leadership, your foresight, your insight, and your volunteerism to this college and to this region of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Joe Prischak, I can't imagine anyone else winning the ageless, remarkable Erieite Award than you. You are well deserving of it. It has been a privilege to know you and work with you, and I look forward to the future. And thank you so much for investing your time in Africa, in a third world where children need you desperately. We love you.
Yeah, congratulations, Dad. This is a great award, great achievement, and nobody could possibly deserve it better than you. So congratulations, and many, many years to come.